What's good, people? It's Jagilsdorf, come back at you with another video, and today we're going to talk about my top 10 road trip reminders. Now, a lot of the road trip videos that I've noticed are about bringing things along. I wanted to talk about the things I want you to remember. Now, I do talk about things that I would recommend you pack, but this isn't necessarily things you pack, it's things you do. So let's get into the video. So this list ranking isn't in any particular order per se. The last few items are definitely relative to hotels. So if you're not going to be staying in a hotel, some of those things might not apply to you, but definitely stick through till the end. Number 10 here, we have the difference between US routes and the interstate. Now, I notice a lot of people don't know the difference between the road signs. County highways, state highways, there's US routes, then there's the interstate highway. We went and we stopped and we got a sandwich, and then when we got back into the car and we looked at the map, on iPhone it just has that like red line of traffic because there was an accident, and it said that our ETA at that time was going to be 7 p.m. Now, without changing the directions at all, we looked at the map and we said, okay, let's just do US Route 11 because it was running parallel with the interstate at that time. So we're like, okay, we'll just get on the US route, no big deal. Now, at first, we noticed a lot of other out-of-state license plates were in front of us and behind us, and we kept watching them constantly take a left and get back onto the highway and get back onto the interstate, I should say. They're still going back on, and the GPS was just like, yeah, no, take the left. You should take the left, get back on the interstate. And we didn't. We just kept taking the US route, and it was about an hour and a half of being on Highway 11 until we noticed that our ETA was no longer 7 p.m., it was 5 p.m. We had saved 2 hours because we didn't listen to the GPS. So, and I was shocked. I thought that the GPS would have been smart enough to say, no, take the US route, and apparently it was not. So don't always trust that. I definitely made that mistake of thinking that it was going to give me the fastest route when it definitely didn't. Number 9 I have as saving locations in the map app. Now, I have an iPhone, so I really can't vouch for Google, but I'd be surprised if Google doesn't have something similar. In the Maps app, you can save what are called guides. I'm not sure why they're called that, but you can save different locations and you can call them whatever you want, and you can put them into different guides, which are essentially just folders. So I had a folder specifically dedicated to my 2021 road trip, and it had every single address that I needed. There was one address that I didn't put in there, and that was one of the hotels, and we ended up getting directions to the wrong hotel. Like, we searched, I think it was like Holiday Inn, and we were tired and we just searched Holiday Inn Express or whatever, and it took us to the wrong one. And they were only like a couple miles apart, but we were really tired, so that extra 30 minutes of driving when we realized we were at the wrong hotel kind of sucked. Like, that felt like forever. And there was the one address I didn't pre-program into my phone as something that was saved. In general, though, when I'm scrolling through like TikTok, or if someone sends me like something on Pinterest, I'll notice that, oh, that's a location that I want to go to at one point. So I've just been adding it to my guides on my phone. So I have a guide just for US travel, and it's all of these just little pinpoints, all of these little like hidden gems that I've noticed. Someone will send me a video about, and I'm like, oh, that's a cool restaurant in the middle of nowhere instead of going to Denver, you're like 45 minutes outside of the city in some rinky-dinky town that no one really talks about too much. And that's where you find those really cool hidden gems, is not necessarily staying on the main roads. You don't want to do everything that everyone does because it's overpopulated, and it's such an oversaturated experience. It's just like, yeah, let's do the same thing everyone else does. It's nice because then you can relate with other people, but it's not as much fun because you don't have a unique experience, and there's no sense of adventure because you're not trying something new. You're trying something that's been tried before by everyone else. Which reminds me, if you're going on a road trip for several thousand miles, you're gonna wanna have the All Trails app, because during your pit stops, during your breaks, go on a walk, because it feels good to get out of the car and go on like an hour hike. And I highly recommend it, because especially depending on where you live, like if you live in more of a remote location, you're kind of used to the forest and mountains and, the nature side of things. Or if you live in a city environment, you're kind of used to the big city and you might want the nature. If you live in the nature, you might want the city. So plan accordingly And I highly recommend, personally, I don't necessarily live in the city, but I don't live near mountains, so getting to go on a hike is fun for me. But also I like to walk around the city. Walking around Pittsburgh was fun, and walking around the little villages that we passed by, that was also fun. And I enjoyed, getting to go outside and not be trapped in the car the whole time. I don't think that a road trip should be focused on, let's get to the destination as quickly as possible, spend our whole trip at the destination, and then spend the least amount of time getting back as quickly as possible. To me, that's not a road trip. To me, you might as well have just flown down. There's not really, a huge road trip aesthetic to that. All you did was just drive. And you have to enjoy the pit stops. You have to take it slow and really just experience random things. So the All Trails app, to stay on topic, I highly recommend downloading that. It allowed me to pick some trails that were nearby, where we saw one of the coolest peaks ever by the New Gorge Bridge? I think that's what it was, in West Virginia. And I took this picture, which I thought looked really good, as well as this one and this one. And Sarah took this one. And I liked that. That was so much fun. That was a really good experience, because you're just like hanging on the edge of this cliff, and it's just a straight drop off, and then you get to see the entire gorge, and it's gorgeous, and I like that a lot. So definitely check out All Trails. It'll give you a lot of information, including like the inclination. So it let me know, like, yeah, this isn't just like a level plane, you're not just walking a straight line, you're climbing and falling and climbing and falling. So plan accordingly. As number 7, I have plan your meals, and more specifically, I have plan your pit stops, like for your meals, around Panera Bread locations. Now, again, I'm in the United States, so for those of you not in the United States planning a road trip somewhere else, might be a little bit differently. But something that I noticed when you're driving is you might see a McDonald's and a gas station and nothing else for miles. It's just this abandoned little pit stop, and it's just a McDonald's and a gas station and nothing else, no other options at all. But if you map for food, it's just going to take you to the nearest food item, and it's going to be like, oh, McDonald's, and that's all your choices are. But if you map for Panera and you plan your pit stops around Panera Bread locations, whether or not you like Panera, it doesn't matter. I've noticed that whenever there's a Panera Bread, there's like 70 other restaurants nearby. You never just see like an isolated Panera Bread and no other options, but you'll see like an isolated McDonald's, So I like to eat local cuisine. I don't really like to do chains when I'm on a road trip. But even still, we were planning our pit stops around Panera Breads because you'd notice, like, you'd find a Panera Bread, there's like 800 restaurants. Like, some of those pit stops were crazy. There was every single restaurant, every single chain, and then like a bunch of like mom and pop shops and local restaurants. And the choices were just immense because you don't know, planning and going into it, you have no idea what you might be craving next Wednesday at 3 p.m. because I have no idea what I'm going to want to eat next Wednesday at 3 p.m. So I planned it around Panera Bread because then the options are plentiful. But with that being said, I also say to plan your meals because typically when you're in the car, you might be eating like snacky food. At first it's like, something maybe a little healthier, like a trail mix or something like that. And then maybe you're eating some protein bars. But over time, what ends up happening is you're noticing you're eating a lot more sugars and candies or breads maybe. And you're just consuming all of these carbs that when you finally do get to go somewhere and go out to eat, you're going to want to eat like a steak or something. You're going to want to eat something a little bit more hearty. So we were planning our meals accordingly. At one point we went to Outback and we split we split a 9-ounce steak, and it came with 2 sides. So we each got a baked potato and like 4.5 ounce of amazing steak. And then we only paid $10 each. And then we were able to eat snacky foods all day long, and then we got that nice meal at the end of the day. And you're kind of planning accordingly like that, because then in the morning we were craving more carbs, so we ended up eating like a big breakfast and a bunch of pancakes and waffles and stuff like that. And then there was another night on the flip side where we went to an Italian restaurant, and that place was awesome. And I ate like a bowl of pasta that was like this big, so much carbs and so many noodles that when I woke up the next morning, the last thing I wanted was pancakes or waffles. I ended up eating like eggs and bacon, much more protein based. So you want to kind of plan accordingly and just think about it. You don't have to like, sit there and draw out every meal, but just kind of think about it, because you don't want to be caught in a place where there's very few restaurants and you're starving and you're only craving certain things, and the things you're craving, they're just not available, because you're supposed to be on vacation. Like, this is a road trip. It's supposed to be fun. You shouldn't be sitting here like only eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches your whole road trip. Like, to me, that's not having fun. You're cutting too many corners and you're cutting too many costs, and you'd be better off just shaving a day or two off of your road trip so that you can spend that money eating out. If you're going on a vacation, to me, eating local cuisine and having nice meals every once in a while is nice. I can't just keep eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches the entire time I'm in the car. That's ridiculous. I think there's a line between being like economical and buying everything that's super expensive. There's something in the middle ground for everyone. So I definitely think about that. I think planning your meals is important. Okay, this one's really not that necessary, but it was a huge bonus to have. And that was, in my car, I replaced all the 12-volt sockets with USB power adapters. Now, I know a lot of people, they just have like the 12-volt socket and they just plug it in and then they plug in their USB power adapter. Those typically aren't very efficient, and if they are, they're expensive, and you probably got like an expensive one. And they also take up a lot of real estate. They're very big, and they can break very easily because there's sometimes the fuses inside aren't very good, and they get too hot because you're using them the whole time, and it's not good for your car, or maybe they stay on when you shut the car off. There's a list of reasons why I recommend doing this. So I literally just pulled it out, stuck the wires together, melted them together, and popped it back in. Took me literally an hour, and that was 45 minutes of me gently pulling back the plastic in my car, because you don't want to like snap the plastic and break. And that was really the hardest part, was just dismantling the plastic on my vehicle. The electrical was super easy. It was extremely straightforward, and I think literally anyone could do that. Let me clarify. If you're capable enough to get your license, you're capable enough of replacing your 12-volt socket. Like, that was a huge bonus, because now every single socket in my car had USB, what was it, like 3.0 or the Qualcomm 3.0 rated charging. I never had to worry about charging. Everything was like a fast charger, essentially. So that was nice. In addition to that, we had a PowerBank. Now, it was specifically this one, and I like that one the most because it has what's called USB PD for power delivery. So I spent the extra cash so that I can plug my MacBook up into that. Now, if the Mac is running and it's plugged in, it'll just drain that entire brick in a couple hours if I'm using it. And if the Mac is dead, I can't just plug it in and then it turns on. I have to wait for it to charge up, because it doesn't give the full amount of energy that you would if I plug my Mac up into like a 60 hertz, or not 60 hertz, the 60 watt wall outlet that comes with a Mac. So like that's a little different, you know what I mean? But I recommend getting that, because if you plug like the new, I got the new iPhone 13, and that comes with the Lightning to USB cable, and this allows you to fast charge. So if you plug the USB-C cable into that power brick, you can fast charge your phone, and I think that's like 50% in 30 minutes or something like that. So that was very, very helpful. Now, I didn't have the 13 on the trip, but I had the X, and it also had the fast charging. I think everything past the 8 has the fast charging capability. So that was a huge one. The other thing we had, which I didn't really get to do a very experimental procedure, is I did buy a range extender, an LTE range extender for our phones. Now, I didn't really notice any significant difference when I was first using it. There wasn't a time where I ended up turning it off, because I ran out of time. I was gonna go buy a toggle switch and wire that up so I could turn it off at any time, and then it was consistently off until I feel like I need it, and then turn it on and see if it helps. But I didn't end up doing that, so it's just always on in my car. I just wired that up directly to the fuse box, and that's just running 24/7 in my car. Every time I turn my car on, there's just a range extender now. So I don't know to what extent that actually helped, but we never once experienced a single dropout. We both had iPhones. I had the iPhone X, she had the iPhone XR, and we both had Verizon cellular plans. So I'm not sure to what extent that all plays a role, but I don't think not having it, you know what I mean? If you have the money, if you're gonna go on road trips, I think that that's a solid investment. Again, very easy to set up. Wiring that to the fuse box was a little difficult just because you have to find a solid ground, but that was fine. Like eventually once I set that up, it was easy. Number 5 is my divide by 55 rule. So 555, it's, you know, just remember that, you know, number 5 is divide by 55. When you are planning your road trip, I don't care if you're gonna do, you know, just the point A to point B and you're like, we'll figure it out along the way, you know, so you're gonna go from Buffalo to Tampa, which is what we did. You're like, okay, that's like what, 1,000 miles, you know, and it's just like, cool, we know you're gonna make a pit stop at one point. There's no car that's gonna be able to have that much gas, so at one point you're gonna stop. And if you're like, you know what, I don't care, I'll find the nearest Panera Bread and we'll stop there, that's fine. But you need to take that 1,000 miles and divide that by 55. That is what I would recommend. It's gonna take you to travel 1,000 miles. Regardless of what the GPS tells you, I would recommend dividing by 55. Now, if you wanna be a little bit more on the safe side, and in my experience, it's a little bit more accurate too, is actually divide that by 45, because you don't realize it, but you stop for 15 minutes, you stop for 20 minutes here and there, and then you hit traffic and you hit congestion because of an accident, or if someone gets pulled over on the side of the road. Many of the states, the law is you have to move out of the way. So someone got pulled over because they were speeding, and now everyone is merging left to then just merge right anyway, and they're cutting people off. You have semis trying to go 70 miles an hour, and then you have people in a BMW trying to go 90. And it's crazy because now you're also swerving right and left and going up and down on all these hills through some Appalachian mountains, and it's beautiful scenery, but it can be scary. We're just in a little Chevy Trax, so going 90 miles an hour didn't really feel very comfortable in a vehicle that small, especially with all the wind, and then you're passing all these semis through all these sharp turns. No. I'm not about that life. We were driving below the speed limit for a decent amount of the drive. The speed limit majority was 70, and we were driving below the speed limit for the majority of it. And some of that wasn't even our fault, because we'd hit construction and construction speed limit was 45, or we'd hit congestion because of an accident and it's a parking lot and you're going 5 miles an hour at best. So I recommend taking your total miles and dividing it by 55 or dividing it by 45 if you want to be on the more safe side. So for a 1,200 mile road trip, I'd probably divide by 45 because there's a lot more room for error in a trip that big. But in a smaller trip, like, you know, if you're just doing 200 mile, 300 mile increments, you could probably divide it by 55 and you'll be pretty accurate. Because I can't tell you how nice it is that the moment you leave the driveway, an hour into your road trip, you're already making good time. And you're not even speeding, you're just going the speed limit and you're ahead of schedule. So even if you're the type of person that doesn't really like to plan your road trips extremely detailed, that's fine. But plan your timing so that you don't have to worry about things like that. And as a little bonus, because our timing was so bad, by the time we got to Virginia and West Virginia area, it was pitch black nighttime. And I can tell you this, there are many more things in this world I would recommend to people than driving in Virginia and West Virginia at night. The winds were so strong, the signs had bent. And again, you have semis moving in and out of their lane because the wind is blowing them so hard. And then you're going down a hill the entire time. So you're almost like riding your brakes through a decent amount of that because you're just falling down this hill, watching semis sway in and out, and deer running on the side, and while you're going like 60, 70 miles an hour at night. So don't do that. Just, you know, my advice to you, don't get caught in Virginia or West Virginia at night. So, number 4, I recommend, now this is mainly for hotel people, bring an overnight bag. Pack an empty backpack. Now I have one of these, it's like a stowaway backpack, so it like folds up into itself, and it's only like this big, but then you unfold it and it's like a full 30-liter backpack. And it's not very structural, it's just like it's almost like a gym bag. Even if you're the type of people to pack light, which during a road trip, I'm not. I tend to pack a little bit more on the heavy side. Kind of medium, I would say. But anyway, when we got to the hotel, we would just grab the overnight bag, throw what we need in for tonight and tomorrow, and then leave. Why do you need to carry every single thing that you brought with into the hotel just to bring it back out the next night or the night later. If you really need it, just go back out to the car and grab it. It shouldn't be that far away. With that being said, as a little bonus one for you, is bring an HDMI cable. If you're staying at a hotel, I strongly recommend just packing an HDMI cable with you, because as long as you have like the right adapter so you can plug it into your computer, and I keep that in my bag because when you got to the hotel, we could watch whatever we wanted because I have cellular data and hotspot with my phone. So even if the hotel's Wi-Fi didn't work, I would just use the hotspot with my phone. The Mac would then run the video, and it would just play any movie we wanted to watch. It was pretty easy, and I highly recommend that. That was nice. I just thought of that last minute. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna grab an HDMI cable. Threw it in my bag, and I used it at every single hotel. It was a total perk that I didn't even really think about. Number 3, this one's really important. I was gonna put it as number 1, but this one's really important, and it's call the hotel at 9 a.m. If you are staying at a hotel, call the hotel at 9 a.m. every time, 100%. I promise you. I don't care what time you're gonna show up to the hotel. I don't care anything. Even if you plan on canceling, like whatever it is, there's no excuse. Between about 8 a.m. and 9 a.m., call the hotel, confirm your reservation, ask them if there's early check-in, ask them if there's late checkout for the next day. Ask them if you want a high floor. I prefer a high floor, so you can say, hey, can I request a high floor? Depending on what time you get there, you might even be able to say like, hey, I know I booked a 2-queen room, but do you have any suites available? And they may upgrade you for free. If you went through a third party, probably not. But if you book directly through the hotel and you're like a gold status or like a platinum status member, they typically upgrade you for free. Little tip for you, back when I worked at a hotel, every time like a sporting team would come in, like, you know, you have like little league hockey, all of the kids, and worse was the parents, they'd put them all on the base floor because all the parents would get absolutely hammered drunk and they would be obnoxiously loud and throwing a party, and then the kids would be running up and down the hall playing hockey in the halls. And you know, as a hotel employee, we're trying to like control these people without having to get, you know, the cops involved, because the hotel still wants to get their money and high satisfaction rating, and they kind of want them to come back next year, but they're also not trying to upset the people at the floors above. So they keep everyone on the base floor so that the kids aren't stomping on someone else's head. Typically there were less complaints when they did that. So tip for you is request a high floor. Now, if you're gonna bring in all that heavy luggage, again, that's why you want the overnight bag, because now you're only bringing in the essentials and you have a high floor, so you get a nice view. It's gonna be a lot quieter up there. You can also request a room away from the hotel, so you can just say like, or I'm sorry, away from the elevator. So you can just call the hotel and say, hey, I want a high floor away from the elevator, and what is the early check-in and late checkout policy that you have, and what's the Wi-Fi password? You can write that down. Confirm the address. Again, I recommend confirming the address. You can make sure you plug that into your GPS correctly. Ask them about parking. Is there free parking? Where do you park? Is there valet? All those types of questions. Just have a conversation with the front desk. Trust me, they would prefer that you call them and ask them in the morning than you show up at night and have no idea what's going on, and then you're upset about it because, let's face it, you're tired, you're crabby, you've been in the car all day, you might be hungry, and you just want to go to bed, you just want your room, and by that point, you don't want to figure out any problems. For example, on my road trip, the first hotel we were going to stay at was closed. They closed down, canceled everyone's booking because their HVAC system, their heating, ventilation, air conditioning system, had broke. So during a pandemic, they had no air movement in the hotel at all when it's 90 degrees outside, so it was actually hotter in the hotel than it was outside. It can get very chaotic if you call them the morning of. I found that out at 9 a.m., so I had a booking by 11 a.m. It was that simple. I didn't waste any time. It was super easy to do. Called them, figured it out, found another hotel, compared my options, booked the room, confirmed by 11. It was done. It was a done deal. It was great. Let's see. So number 2, we have be prepared to change plans. A lot of people like to plan things very meticulously. I know I'm that type of person. I mean, even while I was planning this trip, I was using Google Maps and I was looking at Street View and I was like, oh, do we want to take this route or this route? Well, which one's prettier? And I was literally comparing routes based on how they looked on Google Maps Street View. So I'm a huge fan of planning things meticulously in vivid detail and having a backup plan in vivid detail. And that was great. But with that, I had the freedom of spontaneous decision making. And at any moment, if we wanted to take my plan and throw it out the window, I was totally fine with that. And there were many occurrences where we did. And we ended up having a great time anyway. Like, you take that road less traveled and you see a lot of fun things and new things. So make sure that you are planning, but you are making sure that you are leaving room for error and leaving room for change. Nothing is going to go according to plan. And if that bothers you, maybe road trip life might not be for you, because I don't think anything is ever going to go according to plan on a road trip. It's very spontaneous, no matter how much you plan. And if that bothers you, you're not going to have any fun, and I don't think it's a good idea. So, number one thing, everyone I know forgets to do this. Take a vacation from your vacation. I don't care if you're the type of person that likes to plan every single detail of your trip, or if you're leaving everything, including the destination, up in the air, and you're going to wing it for everything. I don't care. One thing you need to plan is some downtime. Please plan some free time so that next Thursday you say that's the day we're not going to do anything. That is our free day. We're not doing a single thing on Thursday. We're going to sleep in late, and that's the day where the hotel said we have a late checkout, and we're just going to sleep in and watch movies and stay in our pajamas all day, or hang out in the hot tub, or go to the pool, or take a walk, or whatever. But you're planning a day where you have nothing. People always forget to plan for nothing during their trips, and it's so sad because they come back from their vacation and they look exhausted. They don't look like they had fun. They look like they just went on a business trip and it was chaotic and they didn't have a blast. So taking a vacation from your vacation, and in many cases I say, because I like to have a very, fun, adventure-packed, full vacation. So what I do is my vacation is actually one day longer than I tell everybody. So if I'm actually coming back on Sunday, I tell everybody I'm coming back on Tuesday. So that Monday, I have a full 24 hours of the whole Monday where everyone still thinks that I'm out of town. I've called off work, I don't answer my phone, nothing. I'm staying at home and I'm decompressing from my trip. As a road trip though, I recommend putting all the heavy travel at the beginning. So if you're gonna put on like 1,000 miles in a day, have your 1,000-mile road trip day at the beginning. So at the end, you're not traveling as much. So like you travel 1,000 miles at the beginning and then you're slowing down. And then in the middle of the trip, you put on another 1,000 miles on your way back. And then like the last day of our trip, we only drove 300 miles. And we weren't even taking the interstate. We weren't even taking the US routes. We were taking the New York State routes. We were taking the back roads. We were taking very scenic routes. And they were beautiful, and it took us forever to get home. It took us like all day to travel like 300 miles because we kept making pit stops, because we'd be like, oh, this village looks cute. We'd stop and we'd just walk around and just enjoy the area and be like, oh, wow, we should come here sometime. This isn't that far from where we live. And it was nice because, especially at the end, because now you get to enjoy things that are only like 300-400 miles away from your home, where sometimes people travel so far away from their home to try to find something that, to like go on a vacation. How come you can't go on a vacation 100 miles away? Like there are things that are closer to your home than you realize. So spend that last day, taking it really slow going back home, just really dragging out that last day. Don't make it a very travel heavy day. Enjoy your vacation and enjoy the relaxation, okay? Don't pack your schedule jam full, or don't jam pack your schedule to the point where it's so full that you can't even have fun anymore. So there you have it. Those are my top 10 road trip reminders. If you think that I left something out, if you think that I should add something, definitely check out the comment section below. That's where I want to know what you have to say. So please leave a comment down below. Like I read every single comment. It's my favorite part about YouTube is the comment section. I'm serious. I say that all the time. So please leave a comment, and don't forget to check out these videos right here and subscribe right here if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.